The twin suns of Velora shone bright across the silver Capitol towers. The whole city was alive with color and sound. Floating banners filled the sky, and choirs of crystal voices sang from the high platforms. For the first time in thousands of years, the Veloran Empire was not preparing for war. It was preparing for a wedding. Princess Saris Velora, heir to one of the oldest thrones in the galaxy, stood before her mirror, her reflection calm and composed. Yet inside she felt like a storm waiting to break. Today she was not marrying for love. She was marrying for peace. Her attendants, tall, silver-skinned women with eyes like molten gold, adjusted the layered robes of soft blue silk around her. "You look divine, High Princess," one of them whispered. "No one will doubt the strength of Velora today." Saris gave a polite nod, though her thoughts were far away. Strength? No, she thought. This is not strength. This is surrender. The human delegation had arrived earlier that morning. They came in ships unlike any she had seen, angular, black, and scarred from countless battles. The humans had won the final war. The Velorans had lost. But instead of burning the Empire, humanity had offered peace, sealed by marriage. Saris had agreed for her people's sake. But in her heart she had sworn never to forget what this peace cost her. When she entered the Grand Hall of Union, thousands rose to their feet. On one side stood the Velorans, proud and shining in silver armor. On the other side, the humans, shorter, rougher, but with eyes that carried quiet fire. Between them stood the man she was to marry, Captain Elias Ward of the Terran Defense Fleet. He looked nothing like the nobles of her court. He wore no crown or jewels. His uniform was plain black, marked only by a small silver emblem on his chest, a planet wrapped in a human hand. His face was scarred, one eye faintly lined with a burn mark. Yet his posture was straight, unbent, as if the galaxy itself could not make him bow. When he looked at her, Saris expected arrogance or pride. Instead, she saw calm, deep calm, like a still lake hiding endless depth. The ceremony began. Ancient Veloran priests recited the vows in their melodic tongue, and human diplomats echoed them in English. The moment felt unreal to Saris. Two species, once enemies, now united by a fragile promise. When the priest said, "You may speak your vow," Elias stepped forward. His voice was quiet but carried through the hall. "I do not offer you promises I cannot keep," he said. "I offer peace. I offer understanding. I offer the hand of a human who will stand beside you no matter what rises against us." It was simple, but the words struck her. No flowery oaths, no endless speeches, just truth. When her turn came, Saris spoke as she had been taught. "For the future of our worlds, I bind my life to this union. May peace guide our steps." The moment their hands touched, the hall erupted in light. The sacred crystals that floated above the altar flared with energy, signaling that the bond had been made. A wave of emotion swept through the room, hope, relief, and disbelief. As Saris looked at Elias, she noticed his hand was rough, scarred, yet steady. His eyes did not look at her like a trophy or prize. They simply looked, seeing her, not her crown. It unsettled her more than she expected. After the ceremony, there was a grand celebration. Dancers of light performed in the air, and the two species feasted together for the first time. Yet Saris felt a strange tension in the room. Her nobles whispered among themselves, glancing nervously at the human guests. "They smell of iron," one noble muttered, "and war." "Do not insult our allies," Saris warned softly. But she could not deny it. The humans carried an aura of danger, quiet and sharp. They smiled politely, yet there was something behind their calm eyes, something the Velorans did not understand. That night, Saris stood on the balcony of the royal palace, looking down at the glowing city. Elias joined her silently. "The people seem uncertain," he said after a while. "They fear what they do not know," Saris replied. "And they do not know you, Captain Ward." He smiled faintly. "That makes two of us, Princess." She glanced at him. "You mean you do not know them either?" "I mean," he said, his voice low, "I do not know peace." "Not really. My people have never lived without a fight." His words hung heavy in the air. For a moment, Saris felt something she could not name. Pity, or perhaps admiration. Later, after he left, she remained on the balcony alone. The night sky shimmered with 1,000 stars, yet her eyes stopped on one. A faint red light pulsing in rhythm. The humans had placed their warships in orbit, for protection. Peace through strength, they called it. But Ceres could not shake the feeling that humanity's peace was different, colder, older, and built on something far darker than fear. In the following days, the royal court adjusted to the new presence of humans. Their scientists shared technology, their soldiers trained with Valoran guards, and their diplomats studied ancient scripts with scholars. Elias, however, remained quiet. He spent his time walking through the gardens or standing near the great fountain, speaking little. When Ceres asked why, he said, "Your world reminds me of what ours used to look like before we built over the oceans." She found his words strange. Humans had scarred their own planet, yet still spoke of it with pride. It was as if destruction itself was a teacher to them. A week later, during a council meeting, a group of Valoran generals challenged the peace. "Your marriage does not make us equals," General Dareth said boldly. "We have bowed long enough. The humans will show their true nature soon." Ceres stayed silent, but Elias turned to face the general. His tone was even. "You may doubt us, General, but we came not to rule. We came to end the killing. If you think we fear more war—" He paused, his eyes suddenly sharp as steel. "You will be disappointed." The general's voice faltered. For the first time, Ceres saw fear flicker in his eyes. Elias hadn't raised his voice, hadn't moved an inch, but the weight in his words made the air feel heavier. After the meeting, Ceres confronted him. "You threatened a general of my people." Elias shook his head. "No, Princess." I reminded him that peace is not weakness. It's the choice to stop fighting when you know how to win. Ceres didn't reply. His logic was unnerving. That night she couldn't sleep. She walked through the palace halls until she reached the highest terrace. There, under the twin moons, she saw Elias again. He stood alone, looking at the stars. She almost turned back but hesitated. Something about the way he stood, still silent, as if listening to the universe, made her curious. Finally, she spoke. "Do you miss your home?" Elias didn't look at her. "Home?" he said softly. "Humans don't have one. We carry it with us. We build it wherever we must. And when it burns, we build again." His words were quiet, but in them Ceres heard the echo of something vast, something no Valoran mind could understand. When he finally turned toward her, the light of the moons caught his eyes. For a brief second, she thought she saw something impossible, a shimmer, like fire beneath his calm gaze, and the sky above them seemed to dim, as if the stars themselves had looked away. Ceres stood frozen, unsure if it was an illusion or something real. She wanted to ask, but Elias only said, "Get some rest, Princess. Tomorrow the galaxy begins watching us." When he left, Ceres stayed there for a long time. The wind brushed her face and the stars twinkled faintly again. She whispered to herself, "Who are you, Elias Ward?" The question lingered in the night air unanswered. Somewhere far beyond the twin suns, the void itself seemed to stir. The days following the royal wedding were calm on the surface, but beneath that calm, quiet tension stirred. The Valoran Empire had always been proud. Its people were tall, graceful, and believed themselves born of light. Yet now they walked through the shining halls beside humans, a species born on a violent world full of storms and fire. To the nobles, humans were strange and unpredictable. To Princess Ceres, they were a puzzle she could not stop thinking about. Captain Elias Ward, her new husband, remained polite and respectful, but distant. He carried himself with quiet strength, never speaking unless needed. When others tried to provoke him, he only smiled calmly and walked away. But sometimes Ceres caught him gazing out the palace windows for long moments, as if he were seeing things far beyond the stars. One morning, Ceres attended a council meeting with human and Valoran leaders. Discussions about rebuilding trade routes and defense agreements filled the chamber. Everything seemed peaceful until a Valoran noble named Lord Caith stood. "Peace?" Caith sneered. "We surrender our honor and call it peace. These humans brought their warships into our skies and now they sit at our tables like kings." Elias did not react. He simply looked at the noble, calm as ever. Caith stepped closer. "Tell me, human captain, what gives your kind the right to walk as equals among us?" The human's eyes lifted slowly, his gaze quiet but sharp. "The right we earned," he said softly, "by surviving what should have killed us." Caith smirked. "Empty words from a DEATHWORLD species," Ceres tensed. The insult was harsh. She expected Elias to finally lose his temper, but instead he simply rose from his chair and walked toward Kaith. The chamber went silent. When Elias spoke, his tone remained calm. You think survival is weakness. But we humans learned long ago, nothing is more dangerous than those who refuse to die. The room grew colder. Even Cirrus could feel it. The air seemed heavier, like unseen pressure pressing down. Kaith, proud as he was, took a step back without meaning to. Elias didn't raise his voice, didn't draw a weapon, yet every word he spoke carried weight as if the universe itself listened. Then just as quickly it ended. Elias bowed politely and left the room, leaving an eerie silence behind. Later that day, Cirrus found him walking through the palace gardens. You frightened them, she said. I told the truth, Elias replied. What kind of truth carries that kind of power? She asked quietly. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he knelt beside a pool of water, touching its surface gently. You see calm water, he said, but beneath it, pressure builds. It can break stone if left too long. Humanity is like that. Cirrus studied him, puzzled and curious. There was something about his presence, something both comforting and terrifying. That night, as the city lights shimmered below, Cirrus called her advisor, Elder Thalen. What do you know about humans? She asked. Thalen bowed his head. Not enough, my princess. Their world, Earth, is known as a death world. Its storms could tear ships apart. Its wildlife is violent, and even their seasons can kill. Yet somehow they thrive, Cirrus frowned. So they are shaped by struggle? Yes, Thalen replied. But there is more. Some old records from the Galactic archives claim that long ago, gods themselves once tested the humans. The humans fought back. Fought back? Against gods? Perhaps not gods as we understand, Thalen said softly. Maybe ancient beings of immense power, but whatever they were, the records end the same way. The humans survived. Cirrus leaned back, unsettled. No one survives gods, she whispered. Except them, it seems, Thalen said grimly. Days later, the first test of peace came. A faction of Valoran extremists, furious at the Alliance, launched an attack on the human embassy in the capital. Explosions echoed through the night as Cirrus was rushed into a secure chamber by guards. But Elias refused to hide. He went out alone. From the palace balcony, Cirrus watched the chaos. Smoke rose from the lower levels of the city. Human soldiers were pinned down. The attackers had energy cannons that tore through walls, and then Elias appeared. He walked straight into the open, unarmed. The Valoran soldiers shouted warnings, but he kept walking. The attackers turned their weapons toward him and fired. The blasts struck him directly. Light and sound burst across the street. Cirrus gasped, thinking he was gone. But when the smoke cleared, Elias still stood. His uniform was burned, but his body was untouched. The attackers hesitated. Elias raised his hand. The air shimmered, distorted like heat rising from a desert. The Valorans dropped their weapons one by one, clutching their heads as if something invisible pressed upon them. There was no scream, no visible attack. They simply fell unconscious, their weapons clattering on the ground. The human soldiers ran forward to secure the scene. Elias stood still, breathing slowly, his eyes faintly glowing like embers fading in ash. When Cirrus reached him, her heart was pounding. What was that? She demanded. No weapon, no device, just your will? Elias looked at her calmly. Humans have learned to endure. Sometimes endurance changes what we are. His answer only deepened her confusion. Later, when they were alone, she asked again, softer this time. How did you stop them? Elias sighed. Pain leaves a mark, princess. Every human carries it. Some of us learn to turn it into strength. She studied him in silence. So it's true, she said finally. You are more dangerous than anyone thought. Elias smiled faintly. Only when we have to be. That night, Cirrus could not sleep. She walked through the empty halls thinking of what she had seen. She remembered his calm voice, the fire in his eyes, and the way reality itself seemed to bend when he willed it. What kind of world could create such a being? Curiosity became obsession. She went to the royal archives, searching for every record of Earth she could find. The deeper she looked, the more she realized how little the galaxy truly knew about humanity. Reports told of humans surviving impossible conditions, radiation, hunger, storms, and wars that lasted centuries. They had faced extinction multiple times but always returned stronger. Even their myths spoke of defying higher powers. One line from an ancient alien text made her pause. "Beware the children of the burning world. They will not worship gods. They will become what gods fear." Saris felt a chill. The next morning she found Elias standing on the balcony again, watching the sunrise. "I read your history," she said quietly. "It is full of pain," he nodded. "It made us what we are." "But what are you, Elias?" He looked at her for a long moment before replying. "We're the sum of everything we've survived. The universe tried to break us, Princess. It failed." For the first time, Saris felt something unexpected: admiration. The humans were not strong because of power or weapons. They were strong because they refused to give up no matter what faced them. That evening, the council held a ceremony to honor Elias for defending the embassy. Valoran nobles watched with cautious respect now. The same men who once doubted him now bowed slightly as he passed. But as the music played and lights shimmered, Saris noticed something strange. The energy fields that powered the palace lights flickered briefly when Elias walked by, as if reacting to his presence. It happened only for a second, but it sent a shiver down her spine. Later that night, as they stood alone again, she asked, "You said you don't know peace. Why did you agree to this marriage?" Elias turned his gaze toward the stars. "Because peace is worth fighting for, even if we have to remind the galaxy what humans can do when it's threatened." His words carried a quiet warning. Saris realized that humanity's peace was not built on trust, it was built on will. A will so strong that even gods might tremble before it. As she watched him in the dim light, a thought came to her unbidden. He is not just a man. He is a storm waiting to wake. And for the first time since the war ended, Princess Saris felt something new. Not fear of humans, but fear for the galaxy. Weeks passed in uneasy peace. The alliance between humanity and the Valoran Empire was strong on paper, but Saris could feel cracks forming beneath the surface. Some of her own people still distrusted the humans. They whispered that the new peace was only the calm before another storm, but what came next was not from humans. It was something older. It began with the stars themselves. On a quiet evening, Saris stood in the palace observatory, gazing at the galaxy through shimmering crystal lenses. Suddenly, the stars near the outer rim flickered, as if a curtain had been drawn across them. A pulse of strange energy rippled through space, shaking the instruments. "Report that to the Science Council," Saris ordered. Moments later, alarms began echoing across the city. A deep, thunderous vibration rolled through the air. In the skies above Vylora, vast shapes appeared, beings of pure light and shadow, their forms larger than cities. Their voices echoed through the void. "Children of matter," they spoke. "Your time of rule is over. The Eternals have returned." The words vibrated in every mind, no matter the species or distance. It was not sound, it was thought, forced into every living being. The Valoran priests fell to their knees immediately. "The gods have returned," they cried. Saris felt her heart freeze. The legends had spoken of these beings. The Eternals, ancient rulers of creation who had once demanded worship from all sentient life. They had vanished ages ago. No one knew why, until now. Across the galaxy, chaos erupted. Civilizations that had once laughed at old myths now bowed in terror. The Eternals demanded obedience. They called themselves the rightful masters of all. The Galactic Council sent messages of surrender. Even the proud Vyloran fleet stood down, but not the humans. When the message from the Eternals reached Earth, the reply was simple: no. The one who spoke that word was Elias Ward. Saris watched the transmission in disbelief as Elias stood before the council chamber. His voice was calm, but every syllable carried power. "We are not children," he said. "We are not servants. We have built, fought, and bled under our own sky. If these things call themselves gods, then they can come and prove it." The council hall erupted in shock. No one had ever defied the Eternals. Saris faced him after the meeting. "You cannot challenge them," she said. "They shape the stars. They will destroy you." Elias turned his gaze toward her. His eyes held no fear. Let them try. Within days, the Eternals unleashed their fury. A wave of burning light swept across human space, erasing entire fleets in seconds. But when the dust settled, something unexpected happened. The humans fought back. From behind the destroyed outposts, massive ships emerged. Ships the size of moons, cloaked in black metal. They were not seen in the Council records. They had no markings, no names. The humans called them sentinels. Each sentinel carried weapons beyond comprehension. They tore through the Eternals' armies of light with beams that could split space itself. The galaxy watched in awe and terror as the impossible happened. Humans were not kneeling. They were fighting gods. Ceres was summoned to the command center of Valora's defense fleet. The skies above her world blazed with war. Human and Valoran ships fought side by side. She found Elias in the control room, standing before the holographic display of the battle. His expression was calm, though the world shook around him. "They're coming here," Ceres said, breathless. "The Eternals are descending on Valora." "I know," Elias said quietly. "That's why we're here." A new image appeared on the screen, a massive energy signature approaching the planet. The sensors barely managed to measure it. The creature was vast, its form made of light so bright that it cast shadows across half the planet. The Eternal's voice filled the air again. "You dare defy us, mortals?" Elias looked up at the sky through the window. "We've done worse," he said softly. Then he touched his wristband. "Activate Project Genesis." At first, nothing happened. Then the space above the planet tore open, revealing a small, sleek vessel. It looked fragile compared to the gods, but its hull shimmered with strange energy. Ceres frowned. "That ship? It's tiny." "It's not the size," Elias said. "It's what's inside." The ship moved toward the godlike being. The Eternals struck first, sending down waves of energy strong enough to vaporize a continent. But the Genesis ship didn't vanish. Instead, the waves bent around it, folding like light through glass. From the ship, a human voice echoed. Elias's voice, amplified through every channel. "You wanted worship. You'll get memory instead." Then the ship released its payload, a pulse of pure white light that spread across space. For a moment, Ceres thought it was a weapon. But when it touched the Eternals, their glowing forms began to fade. Not destroyed, but dimmed like fire losing oxygen. The gods screamed, not in pain, but in confusion. Elias's voice echoed again. "You are not immortal. You are afraid." The Eternals retreated, vanishing into the void, leaving behind a galaxy in silence. The Valorans celebrated, but Ceres did not. She stood watching the human fleets return, their black ships shining like ghosts in the light of the suns. Later, she found Elias standing alone again, his uniform torn and his expression unreadable. "You fought gods," she whispered. "And you won." He shook his head. "No, we survived them. There's a difference." Ceres looked at him, still unable to believe what she had seen. "What was that light?" "The soul engine," he said quietly. "It connects every human who has ever lived. When we fight together for something we love, it awakens." Ceres frowned. "So that power came from your people's will?" "Not will," Elias corrected softly. "Hope." That night the galaxy was silent. Even the stars seemed to burn a little brighter. But Ceres couldn't sleep. She kept remembering the moment the Eternals faded, and the strange expression on Elias's face. Not victory, but sorrow. When she asked him about it the next day, he said, "We didn't destroy them. We reminded them that we can't be ruled. But they'll be back." "They always come back." Ceres felt a chill. "And when they do?" Elias turned to her, his eyes glowing faintly again. "Then humanity will rise again, because that's what we do. When the universe ends, there will still be one sound left. Our heartbeat." The words stayed with her long after he walked away. Weeks passed, and peace returned again, though the memory of that battle never faded. Across the galaxy, other species looked at humans differently now, not as conquerors, but as something they could not define. Some called them protectors, others called them cursed, but one thing was certain: no one dared call them weak again. On the night of the anniversary of the peace treaty, Ceres stood beside Elias on the balcony where they had first spoken. The stars were calm again, but she could not forget the feeling she'd had during the battle, the sense that the human's strength came from something deeper than power. "You said once that you don't know peace," she said quietly. "Do you know it now?" Elias looked at her with a faint smile. "Maybe a little. But peace is not the same for us. For humans, peace isn't the absence of war. It's knowing what we'll fight to protect. She understood now. Peace wasn't weakness. It was a promise made strong through struggle. When she looked up at the stars again, she felt both awe and fear. Somewhere out there, the Eternals still waited. But this time they would think twice before facing humanity again. Because even the gods had learned what Saris now knew. Humans were not just survivors. They were a force that even creation itself feared to test. After the battle with the Eternals, the Valoran Empire began to breathe again, but the victory left an uneasy tension in the air. Saris walked through the palace gardens at dawn, her mind restless. The humans had won without massive armies, without destruction of their own, and without fear in their hearts. And yet, she had seen the quiet strength in Elias Ward that even the galaxy's most ancient beings had feared. The day was calm, the twin suns rising slowly over the crystalline towers. Saris stopped near a fountain, watching the water ripple in the morning light. She thought of Elias and the Soul Engine, the mysterious power humans had unleashed. She had seen it during the battle, had felt it in the pulse of the fleet, but she still did not understand it fully. Elias appeared silently at her side. "Thinking too much?" he asked softly. "I'm trying to understand," she said, "how your people can do what they did. How you can fight gods and survive." He chuckled lightly, a rare sound that carried warmth. "It is not magic, princess. Nor is it luck, it is life." Saris looked at him. "Life, but your strength?" "It is more than life. It is power that bends reality." Elias studied her carefully. "It comes from everything humans have endured. Every loss, every storm, every battle. It builds us. We do not fear what cannot touch our spirit, and our spirit is unbreakable because we have been tested since birth." Saris felt a chill. "So all your survival, all your victories, they were born of suffering. Not born of suffering alone," he corrected. "Born of choice. Every human chooses to keep living, to keep fighting, to protect those they love. That choice is power." She had heard of human resilience, of their DEATHWORLD origins, but hearing it from Elias, seeing it in him, was something entirely different. She could almost feel the pulse of the galaxy through him, a quiet, steady rhythm of life that refused to be broken. Later that day, Saris asked to see the archives again. She wanted to know more. Ancient records, hidden texts, and forgotten scrolls spoke of humans surviving impossible conditions. Plagues, starvation, planetary wars, and even natural disasters that had wiped out other civilizations. One text, written by a long-dead alien explorer, described humans as beings who turn pain into fire and struggle into a shield. Another called them the children of a burning world, fearless, unbending, and eternal. Saris read and reread each line, but nothing prepared her for the lesson Elias gave her that evening. He led her to a quiet chamber, dimly lit with nothing but a small table between them. On it was a device she had never seen, a small black orb humming softly. "This is the Soul Engine," Elias said. "It is not a weapon, not a machine. It is a connection." Saris frowned. "A connection?" Elias nodded. "Humans are linked in ways your people cannot imagine. When we fight for a cause, when we protect something we love, our will joins together. That connection amplifies us. It makes the impossible possible." He placed his hand near the orb. The hum grew louder, pulsing in a rhythm that seemed to match Saris's heartbeat. Every human contributes. Every thought, every feeling, every hope. It becomes part of a larger whole. When united, we become more than individuals. We become a force. Saris reached out, hesitant, and touched the orb. A shock ran through her, not painful, but overwhelming. She saw flashes, scenes of human struggle across planets, of people who faced death and rose again, of cities rebuilt after being destroyed, of stars lit by their ships even as darkness threatened to consume them. She staggered back, gasping. It is incredible. How can so much power come from mere hope?" Elias smiled faintly. "Because hope is not simple. It is courage, memory, and love combined. It is the soul of humanity. And it is why even beings we call gods cannot control us." Saris looked at him in awe. "So when you fought the Eternals, it wasn't just your fleet, it was your people, every single human contributing." "Yes," he said softly. "Every human heartbeat, every thought of survival, every wish to protect another. It joined together. That is why they feared us." She sank into a chair, trying to process everything. The humans she had known before, the soldiers, the diplomats, the engineers, none of them had seemed extraordinary. And yet, she realized, they had all carried this power within them. A silent, unstoppable force. Elias sat across from her. You see now why the galaxy misunderstands us. We are not gods. We are not invincible, but we are persistent. We do not yield. We do not bend, and we do not forget. Saris nodded slowly. She thought of her own people, of Valora's pride and traditions. They were strong, yes, but they had never faced extinction as humans had. They had never been forced to rebuild their world from nothing, to rise again when all hope seemed lost. Then this peace, she said quietly, was never going to be simple. No, Elias replied. Peace is earned. And understanding humans. That is earned, too. Days passed, and Saris observed him more closely. She noticed the way he treated his people, the quiet authority in his actions, the calm that seemed to influence everyone around him. She realized that his strength was not in his muscles or his weapons, it was in his will. It was a presence that could inspire courage, instill hope, and terrify anyone who threatened those he protected. One afternoon, a group of Valoran scholars visited him, curious about human technology and culture. They asked about the Soul Engine. Elias explained, "It is not just a tool. It is a mirror of what humans carry inside. We do not rely on it to fight. We rely on what it represents, the unity of our hearts, the courage of our people, and the hope that drives us forward." The scholars listened in awe. Some even took notes, but most left, whispering to each other. "This is not merely strength," one of them said. "It is something else, something beyond our understanding." Saris watched him from the doorway, her heart racing. For the first time, she felt true awe, not just respect but awe. The man she had married for peace was unlike anything she had imagined. That night, they stood together on the balcony, the city lights flickering below. "Do you ever fear anything?" she asked softly. Elias looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Fear is natural," he said, "but it does not control us. Humans feel fear, yes, but we turn it into purpose. It is what makes us relentless." Saris thought of the Eternals, the gods who had fallen back before his power. She thought of the countless civilizations who had underestimated humanity, and she finally understood. "You are not just strong," she whispered. "You are eternal." Elias shook his head, a faint smile touching his lips. "No, not eternal. But humans, we leave a mark on the universe that cannot be erased. That is enough." For the first time, Saris felt fear, not of Elias but for the galaxy. If humanity could survive anything, if their will could bend even gods to hesitation, then the universe was entering a new era, one that could not be controlled, one that could not be predicted. She placed her hand on his arm. "I see it now," she said. "I see why the galaxy whispers about your people. I see why even gods fear you." Elias's eyes softened. "And now, Princess, you see the truth of the human soul. It is not power, not weapons, not even strategy. It is the courage to rise when all else falls, to protect those you love, and to hope when hope seems lost." Saris looked out at the stars, feeling the weight of those words. Humanity was more than a species. They were a force of life itself, a reminder that even the universe could not crush determination, courage, or love. And beside her, Elias Ward stood, quiet but unshakable, the living embodiment of what humans had always been. Survivors, fighters, and perhaps the most dangerous beings in existence. The galaxy had grown quiet after the Eternals' retreat, but Saris knew the peace was fragile. Even gods, she realized, were not gone, they were merely waiting. Humanity's victory had been undeniable, yet the universe was still vast, full of powers that could rise again. Saris stood on the balcony of the royal palace on Valora, looking at the stars. The twin suns had set, leaving a deep violet sky. Her people celebrated, but she could not shake the tension in her heart. She thought of Elias, of the quiet strength he carried, and of the soul engine, the living heartbeat of humanity. "Thinking too much again?" Elias asked, appearing silently beside her. "Yes," she admitted. "I cannot stop. We survived the Eternals once, but they may return, and others may come, beings far older than we know." Elias's gaze was steady. "Let them come," he said quietly. "Humanity does not wait for the universe to test us. We rise first." Saris studied him, awe and fear mingling in her chest. She remembered the day he had walked through the burning streets of Valora, unarmed, unafraid, and had stopped the attackers with nothing but presence. She remembered the soul engine, the pulse of hope that had silenced the Eternals themselves, and she realized now fully why humans were feared, even by gods. Days later, scouts reported a new threat, a colossal fleet of alien warships, older than most civilizations, approaching the outer rim. Ancient black vessels that seemed almost alive, carrying weapons designed to destroy planets. The Valoran fleet prepared to meet them, but Saris had learned enough to know who would stand at the front. Elias Ward. The humans assembled, their ships forming lines that stretched across the void. The Valoran ships fell into formation beside them. Saris watched from the command center, her heart pounding as Elias issued orders. Unlike the other commanders, he did not shout or gesture wildly. His presence alone moved fleets, guided soldiers, and calmed nervous allies. The alien fleet arrived with a roar. Energy pulses streaked across space, shaking the hulls of even the largest human ships. The ancient beings were relentless, their weapons designed to erase life entirely. But Elias's fleet moved with precision, coordinated perfectly, almost as if the ships themselves were extensions of his will. Then, Elias activated the soul engine. The black orb floated above the flagship, pulsating with white light. Across the fleet, humans felt it, their hearts and minds connected, every fear transformed into courage, every thought of survival becoming strength. Saris watched as the impossible happened. The human ships moved faster, attacked with precision beyond any known technology, and resisted weapons that could have destroyed planets. "This is unreal," she whispered. Elias turned to her, calm as ever. "This is what humans are," he said. "We do not yield. We do not break. And we do not forget." The battle raged for hours, and the alien fleet pressed harder. Massive beams tore through space, sending smaller vessels into molten clouds. Yet the humans held their lines, unshakable. Even when entire ships were destroyed, new ships appeared from hidden docks faster than the enemy could comprehend. Saris realized then what she had not understood before. Humanity's strength was not just in their numbers or weapons, it was in their will. Each human fighter was part of a greater whole, their determination merging into something unstoppable. As the fight reached its climax, Elias led a small strike team directly into the heart of the enemy fleet. The colossal flagship of the alien armada loomed before them, pulsing with dark energy. Saris's breath caught. The ship seemed to tower over everything, its presence like a shadow swallowing stars. But Elias did not falter. He guided his vessel straight through shields and weapons, moving as if space itself bent around him. "Impossible," Saris whispered. From the soul engine, a pulse spread outward. The humans inside the fleet felt it, their connection amplified. They attacked in perfect harmony, coordinating in ways no computer could replicate. Their courage was like fire, their hope like a blade cutting through darkness. The alien flagship began to falter. Its massive shields flickered. Energy weapons overloaded and exploded. And then, in a brilliant flash, the vessel shattered, disintegrating into nothingness. Silence fell across the battlefield. The remaining ships of the alien fleet turned and retreated, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Humans did not pursue. They had proven their strength. That was enough. Saris felt her knees weaken as the enormity of it sank in. They had survived gods. They had survived beings older than any empire. And they had done so without destroying everything. Elias returned to Valora, the flagship moving smoothly through space. He stood at the command center once more, calm as ever, though faint marks of exhaustion lined his face. "You did it," Saris said quietly. "You won." "No," he replied softly. "We survived. That is what matters. Humanity always survives." Saris realized then that survival was more than instinct for humans. It was a promise, a vow written into the very soul of their species. The next day, the galaxy responded. Reports came from distant planets. Aliens who had once laughed at humanity now watched in awe. Civilizations that had considered themselves rulers now hesitated to challenge humans. Even the ancient myths of gods returned, shaken by what they had witnessed. Saris walked beside Elias through the palace gardens. "Your people, they are unlike anything I imagined. I understand now why even gods fear humans." Elias looked at her, calm but not arrogant. "They fear us because we are not predictable. We do not obey. We do not submit, we endure. And we rise again no matter the odds, she nodded slowly. And yet you fight for peace, not conquest. Because peace is worth the fight, he said. Conquest is easy. Survival, protection, hope, those are hard. That is why humans are dangerous. Not because we destroy, but because we endure. Saris felt awe wash over her. The man she had married for peace was not just a warrior. He was the living embodiment of her people's new understanding, that humans carried a strength beyond weapons, beyond fleets, beyond even gods themselves. Months passed. The Valoran Empire rebuilt, now fully allied with humanity. Trade flourished, technology advanced, and the two species learned from one another. Yet Saris never forgot the lessons she had learned. Of the soul engine, of the human's unyielding spirit, and of the truth that even the most powerful beings in the universe could be challenged by will alone. One evening, she stood with Elias on the balcony where they had first spoken. The twin moons rose, casting silver light across the city. You said humanity always survives, she said quietly. Elias turned to her, his gaze steady. We do, and now the universe knows it. But survival is only the beginning. What comes next is choice, what we build, what we protect, what we leave behind. Saris smiled faintly. And what will humans leave behind? Elias placed his hand gently over hers. Hope, strength, and the knowledge that even the impossible can be achieved when we do not yield. The wind blew through the towers, carrying the scent of flowers and the hum of a city alive with life. Saris felt a sense of peace, not the calm she had known before the war, but a deeper understanding of the future. Humanity had survived gods, had survived extinction, and had proven that their spirit could bend even the universe itself. She looked at Elias, the man she had married for peace, and now understood fully. The galaxy had nothing to fear from humans except the truth of their strength. And that strength, quiet and eternal, was why even gods feared their kind.